But we used to say in the like in that 10-game streak, we would say it all the time, and I've used this in my whole career is, hey, character wins. In a timeout, we'd be saying, hey man, character wins, character wins. And our guys believe that. And they just believe that if we go out and do things the right way and play with a relentless effort and um, that and we do things right off the floor as well, that we're gonna figure out a way.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it.
Today we're joined by the head men's basketball coach at Arkansas Tech University, Mark Downey. Coach Downey recently completed the fourth season of his second stint as head coach at Arkansas Tech. During his first time at Tech, he led the Wonder Boys to a 77-43 mark overall, with 53 of those wins coming in the final two seasons. In 2010, Arkansas Tech won its first 25 games and attained the number one national ranking for the first time in program history, captured the GSC West Division regular season and GSC tournament championships. Coach Downey was named GSC Coach of the Year. Known as a program builder, he's had coaching stops at the University of Charleston, his alma mater, West Alabama, and Northeastern State. At Northeastern State, Coach Downey inherited a Riverhawks program that had gone 28-81 the previous four seasons. By year two, Northeastern State was back in the postseason. In 2023-24, the Wonder Boys finished 25-7, 18-4 in conference play, winning the GAC Conference Championship, and Coach Downey was named GAC Coach of the Year. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
What's up, Coach?
How are you today?
Man, I can't complain. Thank you so much for giving up your time, coming on, talking hoops. This is awesome.
I love it. Yeah, I love to talk to hoops anytime I can, man. I'm one of those, I don't know, old school guys, whatever you want to say, that give me a napkin and a pen and some basketball guys, and let's talk some basketball.
Man, it seems like with how busy we make ourselves these days that it's harder and harder to kind of find that time.
Yeah, it truly is. It truly is. It's coaches, we get so busy, and then we get families, we get older, and it's harder and harder to find. That's why I like next week. We'll go to the Final Four next week, and even now, I don't even get to do it as much because I have my kids with me. But that's a great experience in itself. But used to be you'd go and as a young coach and sit at a restaurant bar and watch basketball and talk about what sets guys like and how do you score if you need a basket out of bounds under, things like that. So you still get some of that. And my son is a senior in high school and he's wanting to coach. So
nice.
He sees that too and likes to do that as well. So hopefully we'll do more of that this next week out in Phoenix.
That's got to be pretty cool to have him wanting to be in the same profession, because sometimes you eat when they're little. They'll see what you do and they'll say that they want to do it, but he's getting to the point where, he really needs to start thinking about what path he wants to go down and what level he wants to be at. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It is. He just finished his high school career and he's going to come to Tech. And I tell him, I don't know how smart he is for wanting to go into this coaching profession. There's a lot of other things I think you can make more money and have less stress and all that stuff. But he wants to do it and he's sticking by it. So we'll see. He'll be around our program for the next 4 years and see how he likes it.
That's awesome. Well, he's going to get a front row seat to really what the business is like and get to learn even more. That's funny you said that. My high school coach, Tommy Thomas, I think just maybe the types of players that, we were or we are sometimes, that coaches can see that, he could see me going into this profession. And when I actually talked to him about it, he told me not to. He said, don't do it. Now, I think he knew that it would probably happen, but it took a little while to get here.
Yeah. And my college coach did the same thing. I was a physical therapy and sports medicine undergrad, and my sisters were in the medical profession. And I thought physical therapy or medical school or whatnot. And the spring of my senior year, we were sitting in the gym after the season and there was an AAU tournament. And my head coach was sitting a couple rows above me and he said, "Hey, what do you think about that kid?" And I said, "Yeah, he's all right, And he goes, "Well, you better get better at evaluating these kids because this is what you're going to do the rest of your life." And was like, no. And then a week later, here I am emailing every coach, or actually back then, sending letters to every coach in the country trying to get a
Wow.
job. So,
Man, not to read too much into that, but what a great reminder that the words that we say that are to our players, what we tell them, like
yes,
it could really matter, and it could really put their lives on a good path, obviously, but also a different path.
no doubt about it. No doubt about it. The significance that we have in our players' lives is so much more important than our success, and that's something that I've learned just over the last 5 to 10 years. Even in the last 2 or 3 years, and try to I know we're going to talk about it a little bit, but that significance has become so much more important in my life with my players than it's ever been.
That's an interesting point. Looking back, because this is year 16 or 17 for you overall.
17 as a head coach. Yeah.
Yeah. So
17.
how much longer as an assistant?
I think I did 12.
Okay.
I did 12. Yeah.
So at what point did it
30.
shift?
I'm close to 30.
Close to 30 years. That's incredible. At what point did it shift from, being maybe wins, legacy, championships? Not that it's not those things now, but like you just said, it's more about significance. Can you pinpoint a time when that shift happened? Because I felt like I felt that way. I had that shift happen.
Well, like you said, I think it's always been in the back of my mind that that's why we do this. My first boss, Dave Davis, at Barton College in 1995, told me, the first thing he ever told me, and it's the best thing that anybody's ever told me, is if you're going to do this for any other reason than the 15 guys that are sitting in that locker room, then you need to go do something else right now. And I tell all my players the same exact thing that want to go into coaching. I tell my oldest son that as well. It has to be about the players all the time. And we get away from that sometimes. You said wins, legacy, money, whatever it may be. We get away from it. And we start, we're not selfless. We get selfish, and it becomes about more than that. But really, in the last 3 years, I went through a divorce in late 2020. My faith became a lot more important to me. And that's when I started doing some counseling and some things and meeting with guys in leadership. And now, faith is so important to me. And in a men's group here that I really I love dearly and love the guys in it dearly. And there's one guy that is a former high school football coach, very successful high school football coach, went down a similar path that I did, went through a divorce and all that. And we're very good friends now. And he leads our men group along with me and another guy. And he pounds that into my head all the time. Significance over success, significance over success. And that is just something that, and at the same time, if you have that significance and if you do things the right way, the success usually follows. So if we keep that in mind,
you can almost guarantee that it will follow, and maybe not in the way that the world looks at success, but with those relationships with your players, and knowing that you help them to become better men, better employees, better fathers, better husbands. Man, we can guarantee our success every season when we keep the main thing.
No doubt. That's exactly it. And there's no better reminder. There's no better feeling when you see those guys have success on their own. They become coaches. They become fathers. They do well in whatever they choose to do. Those are the best calls you can get. I just got invited to a baby christening of one of my players that played here in 2010, and when you get those texts or those invites, it's like going to a former assistant's wedding in 2 weeks. That's what it's about.
So. Ty Compton called them coaching paychecks. And you're right on. He's right on the money with that. I just had a coaching paycheck about 2 weeks ago. Went to one of my former players' weddings, and just getting to sit there. Obviously, our memories flood back to some moments, maybe in practice or games, and the one-on-one talks we had. But just getting to almost like just so much gratitude. The fact that we got to play such a small part, but a part in that kid's life, like way bigger than basketball, man. If this was the end of our talk right here after 7 minutes, it's already been a good talk. So I
for
appreciate
sure.
that.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Yeah. Well, the first thing I'd like to talk about is just I told you, faith and how important it is to me. Just over the last, I was born again, and 1/13/21. So just after my divorce, and just trying to use everything that I do as a platform. And today's it's Holy Week. It's Holy Week.
Yeah.
Easter's coming up on Sunday, and today's the day that Jesus wrecked the temple and tried to weed out all the people that were taking advantage of God's temple and God's house of worship. And it's a huge week, and I sometimes think we forget, and even I forget. I went to church yesterday with my brother in Oklahoma, and it's Palm Sunday, and you're like, man, I almost, you knew it was, you knew it was leading up to Easter and Lent and all that, but you almost, sometimes slip your mind, and it shouldn't. It should be right there at the forefront every day, and I just always want to use my platform to just, talk about my Savior and talk about Jesus and what he did, and the burden he took from us. So, um, today's a huge day leading up to Sunday. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to celebrate him, and I'm grateful for the platform to be on here to express that.
Man, I appreciate you saying that. We're like-minded in that way for sure. And I never shy away, even though this is a basketball podcast, never shy
No
away
doubt.
from getting into that area of my life, or if the other coach feels the same way. You're right on the money with this week and how often we focus on what happens at the end of the week, but we forget to
Right.
think about what he was doing the few days leading up before.
Yeah.
It wasn't just he's sitting around waiting for this moment that he knows he's been sent to this planet for, this earth for. So, and I immediately thought about those commercials that are so common right now. Jesus didn't hate, and they go through this.
Right.
It's okay. Obviously, if we're going to have a Christian-ish commercial versus secular, we'll always choose the Christian one, but they
Yes.
do kind of spin a different version. I don't know if it's necessarily always the biblical Jesus, and you kind of nailed it. I mean, he is over a course of 2 days clearing out the temple, but then setting up shop in it and starting to teach. And we had a pastor go through like an interesting idea of how did he go from teaching in the temple, and then Palm Sunday, or people they were celebrating him coming in. How do we go from that to crucify him? What happened at that time? And the
Yeah.
truth is he was breaking down the tradition and what had been taught, and how the Jewish religion had really moved away, and the hypocrisy. He was highlighting that, but he was highlighting it not just as a whole, but in the hearts of all those people. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's what, we forget sometimes how direct he was. And
No
we
doubt.
we just talk about the love, and obviously it's greatest love, laying down his life. But that week, the entire week, is incredible.
Yeah. Tomorrow he curses the fig tree, and does the
Where's
same
the
thing. He
commercial
says,
on that?
yeah, yeah. He curses the fig tree and says, that this society is not being abundant for God, and the tree is a symbol of that. And yeah, we need that. We
And
need
also,
that, and it's a good reminder.
yeah, and also I love the idea about you using your platform. One of the guys that I feel like does it the best is Jerome Tang, and
Yeah,
but he had a great comment though too. He's like, let's talk about our faith without actually talking about our faith.
yeah,
Like really, let's show it. Let's show by
no
the way
doubt.
that we leave, by the way that we live, obviously by the words we say. But I think what did Jesus do well is also, man, is he lived a perfect life, a life that we're not capable of, but golly, we can sure emulate.
Yeah, for sure. And it's something that I struggle with. I mean, I'm as competitive as anybody you ever meet. Um, and when I step between the lines, I become somewhat of a gladiator, I guess you would say. So I've really had to try, and I still have a long way to go, but I've really had to try to scale that back, just because I don't want to I want to be an example even when I'm on the floor, because that is the platform I have more than anything. When I go out to a game, that's when the eyes are on you more than any other time. And there's sometimes I get lost in it, and I'm the most competitive person you'll ever meet, and I want to win, and I'm animated, and I've tried to scale that back some, just because of that. Just
Yeah.
I want to be an example. I don't want to be in church on Sunday and be the nice guy to everybody, and showing examples and good works and doing all that. And then when I step on the court Thursday night, be some idiot that's losing
Yeah.
it on the referees and cursing and doing all that stuff. So that's a hard thing, but I want to be myself, of course, and coach the way I know how to coach. But at the same time, I also want to be an example for Christ.
One of the lines that we talk about a lot at Faith, being a Christian private school, is how do believers compete? Like,
Yeah.
what should it look like from if you were to watch somebody that says that they're a Christian, how do they coach? How do they play? How do they compete? And I think one, we got to get away from the idea that as believers, we shouldn't be competitive, that we should
Right.
just lay down, that we
No
shouldn't
doubt.
fight for, what's worth fighting for. But
No
then
doubt.
I think the line is, I tell our guys too, like we have the word faith on our chest, on our jerseys.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
the bar is set really high. I would imagine people watch thinking like inside their head, waiting for us to do something that contradicts that
Right.
word on our chest. So the line is, how competitive can we be while maintaining our discipline to like fulfilling that, living up to that? The coach, that's been one of those that I know I've struggled with. How do you get
Hmm.
your guys being as competitive as possible, but not crossing that line?
Well, we have a character coach from Nations of Coaches. That's been one of the absolute best things I've ever done in my program. I've had some great character coaches over the past. I mean, we've had team chaplains forever,
Mm-hmm.
but now it's crossed over. Nations of Coaches is training these guys and most of them are pastors that come in, and they've almost made it to where it is a secular, person that they can lean on. But as much faith as you can bring into your program, whatever your school may allow, all that, they learn how to not cross those lines. So we have a great character coach that talks about that quite a bit. And then the guy that I talked about before, Bruce Mann, that is with me in my church family and my men's group. He came in at the beginning of the year, and he's a fierce competitor as well, former football coach, but a man of God for sure. And he talked about David and Goliath. And I think David and Goliath, I think David, when people think about David, they think of a small, frail guy that, never fought in his life. And that's so untrue. I mean,
That
he
dude
was a
was killing
shepherd,
lions. He was
no
killing
doubt.
lions.
He was a shepherd, and he was taking care of his flock. And like you said, he was killing lions, but he did it for the kingdom. And one thing, the picture that Bruce always paints to our guys is when David stood in front of the king, he had cut Goliath's head off and was holding it in his hand. And he said, just think about that guy standing there, and he wasn't a small guy compared to Goliath. He was, but he was, he was a gladiator. He was a guy that was, and the whole point of the story was, you're allowed to compete and be vicious as long as for the kingdom of God. As long as as long as you don't cross that line, as long as and to have that picture of him standing there in front of the king saying, "Yeah, I won, and I've got his head in my hand to prove it, but it's all for the kingdom of God."
Yep.
That's a pretty neat vision, and he gets fired up talking about it too. Like he's like he's David. He's standing up there and he's growling at him and he's yelling at him, and it's a pretty neat thing that we do every year. And I think what we do is, we talk about that, but then we talk about how we do things. We're going to be fierce. We're going to compete. We're going to be relentless. We're going to try to rip your head off, and that's what Bruce would tell me all the time. Because at the beginning of the year, we had trouble putting people away, and
Mm,
Bruce kept trying to remind our guys when he'd come to practice, cut the head off, cut the head off, cut the head off. You know, so you're allowed to have that you can have that fierce competitive attitude, but we win. We win the right way. We lose the right way. I'm not a big look at me guy. We talk about some of the things that people do and they hit a three or whatever they do, all that stuff. I said that's even injuries. A lot of times with injuries, guys will lay on the floor long because they want everybody to look at them.
mm,
They want everybody to be like, oh, and we don't ever we talk about never wanting to be those guys. We don't if we talk trash after we dunk on somebody and that's not us. That's not us. The flex after you dunk on someone or after you do, that's just not what we want to be about. That's not who we are. We want our game. We want the way we play. We want that fierce competitive nature to show in the way we play,
yeah.
not what we do after we make a good play. And we think it's selfish. We talk about being selfish when you're doing things that say, "Hey, look at me, look at me, look at me." No, look at us. This is what we do. Look at us. And sometimes we get guys in our program that have a really hard time with that. We got a technical. I think in the conference tournament, a guy dunked on somebody and said something, or looked at him, and said something when he dunked on him, and we got a technical foul, and it's just we don't do that.
Yeah.
We sit those guys down, take them out of the game, and that's not something that we want to be about. So we talk about that. I know we're going to talk about our pillars of our program, but we do that too. We want good people with high character, and we're accountable. We're just accountable for our actions and the way we play and each other and our program. And we've always got to remember that.
And a lot of good stuff there. And a lot of the things you talked about, I know coaches that are trying to have a faith-based program, like take that approach to your coaching and to your team. One, it is difficult and there's a lot of challenges with it. But I wrote down because the why comes up from my guys quite a bit. Coach, like, why is me cussing on the floor? Like, why is that such a big deal? Why the way that we react or the way we talk to each other, how we handle
Mm-hmm.
ourselves on after wins or losses. Like, Coach, why does that really matter? And to me, the simple answer is because it's all for His glory. So you
Oh
got
yeah.
to ask yourself, like the word that you're using in that moment in anger, does that glorify Him or is it the opposite?
Right.
Like the way that we are promoting ourselves when we do something good. Now, I think we can use that and almost flip it like let's have your teammates celebrating you. You do something in humility
Mm-hmm.
and have your teammates go, what PGC calls APE. You acknowledge, you praise, you encourage, right? Like let's
Yeah.
let your teammates go ape for you while you show off that humility. But at the end of the day, like I think bringing it back to for His glory. But Coach, it. The moment you start going down that path with your team, the accountability comes from us because
Yes.
we can't be the kind of coach that says you guys can't do this and yet we're acting a fool and we're
Yeah.
we're being disrespectful to refs and we're doing like
Right.
that's where we've got to be above reproach a little bit with that.
Yeah, and that's something I've had to work on too. I chirp and I'm competitive with the referees as well. And if most of the referees that I've been around, I've been here for 8 years now, two different 4-year stints, and was in Oklahoma for 3 years as well. So we get a lot of the same officials. So a lot of them know me now, and they know that I like to chirp, and they know how to, be lighthearted or
Yeah.
say, okay, that's enough, Mark, or whatever, and I simmer down. But the minute someone takes it personal, and wants to chirp back personally, that's not good for me. And I've had to really work on that because I'm a competitor. If they want to get personal, I start, almost chirping at them and fighting with them. And, but I've gotten so much better in my career about that. But still, I chirp at him.
Yeah.
What's up, Coach? Are you looking for a way to elevate your off-season skill development? Well, look no further. With the Ballogy app, you can build a workout with our library or create your own content. Send that workout to your players, and then your players complete the workout by recording their session on their phones. You can monitor and encourage competition with our leaderboards for every workout. Ballogy offers player development solutions in the palm of your hands. Get your team started today by going to ballogy.com for more info.
You started off our talk saying that when you got back into your faith, you really started looking at things more through the lens of significance, and I think that you're right on the money. Like when you do start getting back to the root or core of why we're here, which again is for His glory, and you start to look through things like that, it does crystallize your mission and probably your culture and standards of your program. So let's just flow right into that. What are those standards that you guys live by?
Well, we have 6 pillars. We have them plastered all over our locker room. And it's pillars for our staff, pillars for our program, how we recruit. It's just everything we're about. I'm not a big culture, that buzzword. I
Coach,
don't
that's
like
why
to say it.
I say standards and pillars, Coach. So I
Yeah,
say,
yeah. I mean, it's funny to me. I found this to be true just in my own experience. I know guys that are culture builders are usually pretty good at it. But in my walk, as a coach, guys that say culture, 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 a lot of times their guys don't like them very much. And
or they
it's just
don't, or it's
something.
not really there.
Yeah, and I
Like
just found that
discipline,
out.
like discipline.
Yeah,
We're disciplined.
yeah,
We got a lot of discipline.
yeah, maybe not. So I don't love to use that word. I know there's some people that are really good at it. I've worked with some people that are really good at it. John Kaufman was really good at building that. Everybody that's successful in our business is really good at building culture. They just do it differently.
Yep.
And so I don't like that buzzword. I'm with you. I like how you phrase that. But with us, it starts. I think number one, our first one is great people with high character. This team that I had this year, we won 25 games. We won the conference. We split the conference regular season, and we had our backs were against the wall. We had to win 7 in a row, and 5 of them were on the road at the end of the season, and we won them all, including a bunch of tough road games. And we got lucky because we were 1 game behind most of the year, and then second to last game of the year, Southeast Oklahoma lost and allowed us to split the conference title with them. And then we went on to win the tournament and go to the NCAA tournament and played Minnesota State. Really tough. I think we should have beat them, but we just didn't make the plays that we were making. In that we won 10 in a row. We didn't make the plays we were making, and they did and beat us. And now they're number 1 seed in the Elite Eight. So we are losing the kid to the portal, but we have everybody back otherwise. So some big things can happen for us next year. But we used to say in that 10-game streak, we would say it all the time, and I've used this in my whole career, is, hey, character wins. In a timeout, we'd be saying, hey man, character wins, character wins, character wins. And our guys believe that. And they just believe that if we go out and do things the right way and play with a relentless effort and and we do things right off the floor as well, that we're gonna figure out a way. And they did all year. And we just don't want to bring people into the program that don't, they don't want to do things the right way. They don't want to wake up every day and be an everyday guy. We talk about that a lot, being an everyday guy, and just do things the right way, treat people the right way. And we feel that that's going to help us in every realm. It's going to help us as we move forward. It's going to help us on campus. It's going to help put people in the stands. If you play the right way and do things the right way and you act right in the community and you give back to the community, then those people are going to start to recognize that and they're going to show up. So that character is huge for us, and it's number 1 for a reason. Our second one is being accountable for our actions, each other, and the program. Um, we want to take full accountability for everything we do. And, you know, we talk about this a lot too with our guys. We're trying to build leadership, and some guys are leaders more than others, but they all have to learn to be leaders because they're all going to lead their families and maybe lead their work and maybe be coaches. A lot of them become coaches. Like they're all going to be leaders one day in their life. So, you know, I think and I know we talk about this later in the talk, but um, taking accountability is huge, and being able to look in the mirror. I think that might be the greatest aspect of leadership that there is. Just being able to be accountable and say, hey, this one's on me, even when it's not sometimes. But we're accountable for our actions. We want to be accountable for each other. We want to police each other. Um, I think that's the greatest form of caring for somebody and loving somebody is being able to tell them when they're not doing right, and keeping them in line. And then our program, just don't embarrass our program. Be accountable for our program. The third one is my catchphrase. It's what we're about, and that's relentless. We want to be relentless as a student in the classroom. We want to be relentless on the floor. Um, we just talk about that all the time. Multiple efforts, multiple efforts, multiple efforts. Never quit on a play. We say, I borrowed this from John Kaufman at Fort Wayne. Don't die on a vine. You get beat off the dribble. Don't die on a vine. Don't stop playing. Multiple effort. Make a play from behind. Must at Arkansas always says, rear view contests. If you get beat off the dribble and the guy pulls up mid range, you contest it from behind. Don't foul him, but make him see you from behind, and calls that a rear view contest. So we talk about being relentless all the time and trying to fix it. Basketball is 80% advantage, disadvantage, and a lot of times you just got to fix it. And we talk about that, and that relentless effort, just keep coming at you and keep coming at you. And we believe that as hard as we want to play, we can only play 3 to 5 minutes at a time. And when we get our guys to buy into that, you might only sit down for a minute or two, but we want 3 to 5 minutes as hard as you can possibly play. Relentless, relentless, relentless. And that's and we want to tackle life that way too. Whether it's classes, whether it's your family, whatever it may be, we just relentless effort. 4, we want to get better every day. We're committed to getting better every day. We said that earlier, everyday guys that, want to get in the gym and do the extra work, but also come to practice with that mentality that we're not going to waste a day and we're going to get better every day. And I'll tell our guys all the time, man, if you come not ready to go, then we might be back here at 10 p.m. And if you don't come back at 10 p.m. ready to go, well, we'll be back here at 5 a.m., and we're not going to waste this practice. We're not going to waste this day. And we try to spill that over into the rest of their life too. Just waking up every day and being grateful and committed to what am I going to do to get today to get better. 5 is, and this is a big one, and this goes back to Patino and Cal, and, deserving of our success and learning from our failures. We right above our board in our locker room, it says deserve success. And we are a big believer in you deserve what you get. If you're standing at the free throw line down 1 with 2 shots and 3 seconds on the clock, in your mind, you might not admit it, but in your mind whether you deserve to make these 2 free throws. If you pull up for a 3 down 2 with 2 seconds left in the conference championship game, you subconsciously know whether you deserve to make it or not.
Yeah.
And deserving that leads to confidence. You deserve what you get. You make your own confidence. And we believe in that a ton. And then when we do fail, we learn from it and we don't let it happen again. We don't want to make that mistake again. At Minnesota State, we made a really huge blunder at the beginning of the half. We changed up a little, and I was mad at myself. I took that ownership, took that accountability because I did it. But we wanted to mess them up at the beginning of the half, and we threw a junk defense at them, so to speak. And one of our kids just dropped the ball. I mean, I don't know if he forgot. But he ran away from the conference, the region player of the year, and
bold strategy.
They threw it right back to him, and he hit a 3, and they ended up hitting 7 in a row. And 9 of 13 in the second half. And still, we had the ball, with down 5 with 3 minutes to go and didn't score. And, it went back and forth a little bit and we ended up losing by 7. But that one play
Yeah.
started the barrage of threes, and they had 5,000 people in their arena. I mean, it was an unbelievable atmosphere. And that, shooting is contagious, especially when there's 5,000 people cheering for you. And he hit that three, and next thing you know, they hit 6 more. And, we go from being down 1 at half to down 11. And we had to battle back and battle back and battle back. And we did, but we couldn't get over the hump. But that one mistake, and so we talked about it right after the game. I know we just lost, but we've got to learn from what just happened. You guys have to understand that every possession matters. That one gaff, I believe it. If we would have got to stop that possession, that game could have turned out completely different. Because you're not sure that they go on that 7 in a row run of threes, and some of them were just crazy hard shots.
Yeah.
But they were confident because they saw the first one go in and they heard the crowd go nuts. And it never quit. It spilled over the rest of the tournament. They won the next day by 25, and they hit a buzzer beater against Northwest Missouri, and now they're the number 1 seed in the Elite Eight. So we have to learn from that. We've got a lot of guys back, and we need to learn from that because next year there's a good chance we could be back there. So that's huge. And then the last one, and I added this probably about 7 or 8 years ago, because I thought there were a lot of entitlement going on. People thinking they should get something, not earning it. So we put our last one, the 6th one, is appreciative, humble, and enthusiastic, and never entitled. And that is, we don't want to expect things just because we have the Arkansas Tech sweatshirt on, basketball sweatshirt on. We don't want to expect anything in our community. We don't want to expect anything from our teachers. We don't want to be treated any different. We want to be an everyday guy that shows up and is relentless and deserves what they get, and we want to be enthusiastic about it. I saw something yesterday watching the tournament, maybe it was 2 days ago, Shaka Smart talking about energy. And, that's a big part of what we do every day too. That being that everyday guy is being enthusiastic, bringing that energy. And some people are better than others. You got to pull it out of some guys. But just bringing that energy, being grateful for where you're at, being where your feet are at, and never thinking that you're owed anything. You don't deserve anything. And that's something that we're going to have to deal with next year. We had a huge year. We're defending conference champions. We've got everybody back. Who cares? We haven't done anything. It's a new season. So that's something that we'll have to fight pretty hard next year. But we have a good group and we have high character. So I think we'll handle it pretty well.
And I appreciate you sharing those 6 things. And I can see definitely how I'm going to use the word culture, but that can really shape the culture of your program, how you handle winning and losing, how you handle every day. Because to me, there's a nice flow throughout. If you're relentless, you're probably going to be getting better every day. If you're getting better every day, you've earned the right to have success. You've earned the right to believe that good things can happen for you. But then always comes back around to that's over and nothing is guaranteed. I want to hit the character part though, because you have the opportunity to recruit the guys that fit these 6 things. You get to have your guys. And I am at a private school, but believe it or not every private school recruits. So I look at it as whoever God brings in the door every year. And sometimes there's some good hoopers in that group and sometimes there's not.
Right.
But most high school coaches don't or can't recruit. So if you have these guys on the bus and some of them necessarily don't line up with character wins, and it might not be necessarily just their fault, because you're also sometimes dealing with the character of the family, the character of the parents. And I would imagine maybe accountability starts to come in. But what's your advice if a coach wants to establish a culture, that character, doing things the right way, especially when no one's watching, that's important to us. How does he go about doing that with kids from different backgrounds, different families?
Yeah, I think So I used to say that all the time. I still think this way, um, but it's really easy for me or for any coach to in the cut to college level. And again, there's two reasons why I didn't become a high school coach. One of them is the fact that I couldn't change my team when I needed to.
Mm.
Sometimes you can't do it. You just got to take what you get. And that's a different realm. I respect high school coaches, especially guys that continue to do it to win, because a lot of times you just have to coach what you get, and that's difficult. But the other thing is, the first meeting of the year, we sit down with our guys and say, okay, I don't coach high school basketball for a reason, because I don't deal with mommy and daddy. That's over. If we have an issue, you're going to walk in my office and be a man. We're going to talk about it. But mom and dad aren't going to call me to talk about it. Or just, I hope I have a good relationship with your mom and dad. I probably already do, because we recruited you and they were on your visit. And I love seeing them at the games. But we aren't going to talk about the issues within our program with mommy and daddy. It's going to be between you and me. And so I used to say it all the time, and I still believe this, but I used to say, hey, I could just take 12 or 15 great kids every year and make my life a lot easier. I could do that, but I've had a lot of success with guys that are on their second and third chance.
Mm.
And listen, sometimes we miss. Sometimes we miss. Sometimes we take a guy that, we really try to do our vetting and try to get to know those guys and build a relationship with them and ask them the right questions to figure out if, okay, I may have made some mistakes, because heck, I've made mistakes. Shoot, I went through a divorce. I made mistakes. I take accountability for that. I dropped the ball. But we've all made mistakes. So now, what are your goals? What are you looking to do? Do you realize that this might be the last opportunity to do it? Then we go a step further and say, okay, this is your goal. This is what you want to do. How is that going to happen? How are you going to stay away from, for instance, if a kid, got kicked out of school somewhere because he tested positive for drugs? Okay, now we're looking at him and we think he's talented enough, but is the habit behind him?
Mm.
How are you going to stay away from that? And we feel like sometimes, with a team like this, we don't necessarily want to, with everybody coming back, we're going to add a couple guys to our program, but we sometimes think, okay, if we bring a guy that's rough around the edges, we have a bunch of character guys that may be able to bring that guy along. So we've done that in the past, where we might have brought a guy that's on his second or third chance. And I think one of my biggest success stories is a guy by the name of Renard Allen. I was in New Orleans as an assistant for 5 years, and I was a young assistant, 30, I think it was 29 to 34 when I was or maybe even younger than that, 27 to 33, something like that, when I was in New Orleans. And I was hooping all the time. I was playing. That's a city where you can play every night if you want to, in a men's league or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And I was playing against this guy that was a highlight reel. I mean, he was just dunking on everybody and young legs, but he's playing in men's leagues. And one day we started playing with each other on the same teams. We play against each other. And then one day we played in a game together and we're sitting in the stands. I was like, Renard, what's your story, man? Where'd you play? And he's like, oh, I played at UNO. And I'm like, oh, great. And he's like, but I only played my freshman year. And he goes, my sophomore year, some things happened. I, had some girl issues and got in a scuffle with somebody and got stabbed, and ended up quitting the team. And then I got a good job driving a truck. And then I met my wife, and then had 2 kids, and, now just living life. And I said, so you never got your degree? No. Never finished playing basketball? No. I said, okay, well, a year later, I get the job at Arkansas Tech. And, we have the 2-year non-participation rule, where guys are basically, if they were qualified out of high school and they've been out of school for more than 2 seasons and haven't played, they're eligible immediately, regardless what the transcript says or whatever. And I called Renard that first year and said, hey, man, I got a scholarship for you. And he said, Coach, I just don't know. He said, call me next year. And I called him in April the next year and said, Renard, I got your scholarship sitting here for you. And he was in Russellville, Arkansas 2 weeks later with his wife, with his kids. He still lives in Russellville. and he played 3 years for me as a 28-year-old sophomore, a 29-year-old junior, and a 30-year-old senior.
Wow.
And he was first team all league his senior year. He was conference tournament MVP his junior year. He helped build the program into the number one team in the country. And just, a kid that was, when he went to college the first time, didn't have his priorities straight,
Yeah.
made a lot of mistakes, was dabbling in drugs and alcohol, just, wasn't doing the right things. And now he had a family and wanted to get a college degree, but no one ever offered him the chance to do it. And now his son plays for me. So, it's crazy. So it's full circle. And I tell people,
that's an amazing, sorry, go ahead.
no, I laugh now. I joke now with guys. This is my first grand player. So
the Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
But that's an amazing story. I don't think I've ever heard anything like that where really, I mean, talk about second chance,
yeah.
but so later on in life, I do want to circle back to, because I think you're right. There's a difference with at the college level, just getting to set that boundary of I'm only dealing with you. You can do that. It'll harder
Yes.
at the high school level to do that. But I
No
think
doubt about
what
it.
we do need to do is exactly what you did, which is with parents, with players, set clear boundaries and expectations. This is
No
what
doubt.
we will talk about. This is when we'll talk about it. This is how we will not address things.
Yes.
And also clear consequences if those boundaries or expectations aren't met. I think that's
Yeah.
how we have to do it in order to, because my wife had a great kind of quote, or just she told me great advice years ago. I was really frustrated with a player here, and I thought, like, he's at a Christian school. I just don't think he wants this. Like, I don't think he wants anything that we're selling, anything that we're trying to give him help. His heart was hard towards this message, and I was really stressing out about, like, I'm failing him. And my wife Jana just said, Matt, it's not your job to save him. And I think, golly, like, thank you. Like, that great advice. Mm-hmm. But with that, though, ultimately we can't save them or dramatically change their character or their family's character, but we can help steer and we can help them to be able to coexist and buy in. Clear expectations, man. That's what you did.
No doubt about it. And that's we set those boundaries with those guys, especially those second chance guys. And I had my character coach at NSU do the same thing to me. I used to beat myself up when guys did not make it. It was my fault. I failed them. And one day he walked in the office and Jeffrey Kaufman and said, "What's up with you, man? Something's on your mind. Something's wrong." I just said, "Man, I had to kick off so and so today, and I just feel like I failed him. I feel like I let him down. Didn't do my job." And he said, "Man, same thing. You can't save every one of them." He goes, "As a matter of fact, what you just did is probably a blessing for him, because now he might be able to go somewhere and play for somebody that can help him, and that will get to him, and that will reach him." And at the same time, by you trying to help him and trying to save him and trying to reach him, and he's not letting you, you're hurting the other 13 guys that are on your roster that you can and that are willing to let you save them. So I even had somebody that's very close to me the other day. We're losing our conference player of the year. This is where college basketball is at. He's conference player of the year. He averaged 20 a game and a great character kid. I never thought that he would leave us, but like any kid that's being offered a chance. He wouldn't have been able to leave if they didn't change the rule in the middle of the year, so that sucks too. But he's not going to graduate. A good student, he's just not in place to graduate yet, and he's a double transfer, so he wouldn't have been able to leave. But he's able to leave now, and someone, and I took a 24 hours to be angry and get it out of my system, and then put that chip on my shoulder and turn the page. I told myself I'm gonna wake up the next day and I'm gonna turn the page. But someone close to me that's very dear to me said, "Hey, listen, Talon Peter is the kid's name. He came into our program 3 years ago, and he's a great kid. He's a high character. I love coaching him. Obviously, he's gotten better and better, and now the conference player of the year, first team all region. But she said 3 years ago, Taylor needed you, and he came into the program and he needed you. And he goes, you know what? There's probably someone else out there that needs you, and God's moving Taylor aside so that next person can step in and you can help them. And man, that talk about mission, talk about
Yeah.
significance. That hit.
Yeah.
So very wise.
Thank you for sharing that and showing the kind of that vulnerable side of coaching that we all have felt that before. And I don't think at coaches clinics you necessarily hear the guy talking about that. It's more about his X's and O's, and which are usually great. But you're right. That loss that we've all felt before when a player or a family makes a decision or a change that you just don't understand, man, the ability to let go and the ability to trust that someone else is going to fill that seat that needs to fill that seat. Talk about mind shift right there, man.
No doubt about it. That hit me pretty tough. And again, Taylor will move on to another program to where, maybe that, and Taylor is an amazing individual. He's helped me, maybe I think maybe as much as I've helped him. And maybe a coach that he's going to play for next year needs him.
Yeah.
Or a player on that team. Maybe he'll witness to a player on that team, and that player will find God. You never know what the plan is, but you just got to have faith.
Yeah. Kind of changing gears a little bit from your standards and pillars, and the fact that obviously you choose the guys that come onto your team. There's this kind of idea or debate can you choose your style of play regardless of the players you have, or does your style of play depend on the type of players that you have? Where do you kind of land with that?
First of all, we're looking for the guys that fit these pillars. We're looking for those everyday guys. It's crazy, and you talk about gladiators, but one of the things that we do every time a player comes on our campus is I'm a big fan of the guys that were killers. I'm a Michael Jordan guy. If you want to debate with me about LeBron, we can debate all day. But the thing that sets him apart for me is that killer.
No doubt. Watch The Last Dance, and there's no doubt.
Yeah, you just rip your head off to win.
That's
and those
right.
are my type of guys. So my guy right behind Jordan is Kevin Garnett. I just love the way Kevin Garnett attacked the game. And, he had the show on TNT a few years ago. Area 21 is what it was called. He wore number 21. And there's a video that's like 2.5 minutes long. If you just type in KG Area 21, it'll come up, and it is like the trailer for his show. And he talks about having the love of the game and what it takes to win and being a competitor. And he curses a couple times, and they block it out. But just that the mindset that he takes towards being a player and what it takes to be good. And he even says that, hey, young bucks, this might not be for you. You might not be ready for this, because this is it. We're not friends with them. That it's us against them. I know that's your boy. I mean, I almost know it by heart. I can, because I've seen it 350 times. But we show it to every recruit, and I tell them, if the hairs don't stand up on your arm when you're watching this video, if you're scared watching this video, then this isn't for you.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that dude up there is me talking to you. And if you can't watch this video and get excited, then this isn't for you. It's not going to be for you, because we need those guys that are killers. So that's the first thing that we're looking for. I tell my guys all the time that my teams that are successful take on my personality. And when you take my personality to the floor, we're going to be really good. And that's my personality, that competitive killer. We're gonna knock your head off. And we play physical. I love watching teams like Houston. My mentors coming up through the business. I worked for Chris Jans twice. Matt Painter and Bobby Huggins are dear friends. Those guys that just are grinded out guys. Their teams are gonna guard you. Their teams are gonna punch you in the mouth. I'm from West Virginia, so I went to the Houston, West Virginia game down in Houston this year, the crazy game that ended on a Hail Mary. Um, yeah, that was nuts. But I got the chance to go over, and Bobby Champagne used to be a Division II coach, and we went to get coached against each other, and he's on the staff there now. And he gave me a tour of the facility, and they were ending practice, and I got to hang out with Kelvin for a little bit. And those are my type of guys. Like
Yeah.
I love those type of guys, and we're looking for those types of tough players. So, I think some of the things that we do, style wise, we have certain things that we look for. We have a vision of the type of guys we want at each position. Working for Chris Jans, it kind of got me away from small guards. We don't take small guards unless they're special, unless they're
Yeah.
just super special. He used to say, "Don't bring me anybody under 6 foot unless they're going to be a first team all league guy." He just wouldn't even look at him really unless they were just a no brainer. Obviously, we're looking for that character. We want everybody to be able to shoot it. We're not necessarily, our fives don't necessarily need to shoot it, but it's a bonus if they can step out and shoot the three. But we want everybody on the perimeter 1 through 4 to be able to shoot threes, and we did that this year. It's one of the reasons we were so successful. Our 4 starters, the 1 through 4, all shot 38% and above from three. And our team shot at 40% as a team from three.
Yeah.
So I think we led our league. We dipped a little bit after the season was over because in the NCAA tournament we didn't shoot it very well, and actually in the conference tournament we only shot at 27%, and we still won the tournament. But throughout the year, one of the reasons we were successful is because we shot at 40%.
Do you think is there something to that? What do you feel like was the reason you perhaps shot poorly in the tournament or both tournaments?
Our conference player of the year, our player of the year hurt his wrist in the last game of the season, and he didn't make a three in the postseason.
Okay,
he shot 42% from three for the year and made 80 something. So when he wasn't making shots, you talk about it being contagious. It's also contagious when you're missing shots.
Yeah.
I think because he was pressing and he wasn't making shots, our other guys were pressing offensively. But the reason we won is because we guard.
Yeah.
The reason we won the tournament is because we guard and we rebounded. And we found ways to win. The first 2 games without Taylor at 100%, we really struggled. And we had to win late against 2 teams that finished below us in the standings. And then in the championship game, Taylor played better. I think he had 10 points. But, we just kind of put it together offensively and made some shots and ended up winning by 14 or 15. So, in the championship game, but we want to surround. We want everybody to be able to shoot it because it's so hard to guard. So that's one thing. We rarely take a 1 through 4 that can't shoot. Again, they've got to be special some way. Either an elite defender, great rebounder, something like that. We want guys that like to defend, that take it seriously. We're even in the midst of, I guess I'm in the midst of starting a business kind of, and on the defensive side of things, implementing a defensive system and all those things. Something it's crazy because when I played, I couldn't guard that door right there. I wasn't a very good defender. But I could shoot it with the best of them and never saw a shot I didn't like. And it's funny now, I am passionate about coaching defense, and I've just started coaching. I've coached my kids their whole life, but this is the last year I can coach my son. He's a 6th grader, my youngest son. So next year he becomes a prospect. So I can't coach his summer teams next year. So this is the last year I can coach him. So I helped coach his winter league team or his school ball team. I'm helping now coach a spring team that he's on for the spring, and then his summer team I'm actually coaching. And all of them are starting to play man defense. Usually when you're little, they put you in zone and, you don't learn how to guard anybody. So this year they're really teaching them at 6th grade how to defend man. And when I come to practice, they look at me and say, "Hey, we need to learn how to guard. It's yours." And I'm the assistant on all these teams. So they just say, "Practice is yours today." So we're teaching, plant push slides and closeouts and angles and, jumping to the ball and sprinting to help and, fixing it on the weak side with rotations and all this stuff. And I realized how much kids that are in fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth grade have never been taught how to defend before. And so we're in the midst of trying to, put a business together. We're saying, okay, we can come into your program, whether it's a high school program or a junior high program or both, and teach a defensive system, not just, how to guard the ball or not just,
Yeah.
but here's a system. And, that's something that I've become really passionate about. And we're going to try to get off the ground here in the next 6 months or so.
Coach, I'm interested in learning more about that. I'm much
Yeah.
more of an offensive minded coach, even though the kind of the
Yeah.
flip side from you in college, I mean, in high school, offense was easy to me, and that's why I was recruited. But then in college, I realized like in the Big 12, I can't offensively do what I used to do. In fact,
Right.
they're all too big, they're too fast. And so I actually became a defensive player. And so a lot of my players just don't believe that story because I'm more of the offensive side, but I'm interested in that.
Right.
You nailed something about having systems rather than, just one drill or one way to do something.
Right.
Because you had said it earlier, about we need to have solutions with things. We need to be able to tell not just that they're doing something wrong, but have solutions. And I think you even said like learn how to fix it. Systems
Yeah.
to me have solutions involved, and so
Yeah.
I'd be really interested in learning more about that whenever you
Yeah,
get
definitely.
going.
Yeah, definitely. We have an idea of how we want to do it and how it can be cost effective for high school coaches to do. And we'd love to, our mission, our vision is to, hey, give us your seventh graders through your 12th graders. We want the whole program, and we'll come in for 2 days and we'll teach how to guard the ball, how to, and it'll go from part to whole. It'll go from, how you defend the ball all the way up to here's our system and here's how we implement it and here's how we do. And then even to take it a step further, and my character coach actually gave us this idea to add on to the end of it is if you want us to for a little bit more cost, we'll stick around for 4 hours after the clinic's over and we'll go through how we scout because how many, especially at smaller schools or guys that have never really been on the college level or their high school coach didn't scout very much. How do you scout an opponent? And we'll bring film and all this other stuff into it to show you how we scout, how we break down personnel, how we, take away certain things, what our philosophy is with that. And, he said, my character coach, we're sitting around at the NCAA tournament and we're watching film and our team leaves and he's sitting there and he has a perplexed look on his face. And he's like, can you market what we just did? And I'm like, yeah, maybe. And
Yeah.
he's like, well, he goes, my high school coaches never did this.
Mm.
Like how, you guys, and we get really in depth. I know we probably do it a lot more than most people do. We get super in depth on, we believe that we can sway the game 8 to 10 points by just knowing our personnel and knowing what they're going to run and what they like to do the most and what their tendencies are. We believe in that.
Well,
But
I think you show coaches everything that you do, and just
yeah,
it's up to us then to understand
right.
with our time. Like I don't teach. I have AP Silent Study Hall, so that's not hard. And but like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of coaches do have a full teaching,
Right.
though. So it's like figure out what you can do from what
Yes.
you're doing, and even with the systems too, because I think sometimes the problem with even like if I ever get to come in and what we call flow is our 5-out dribble drive. If I ever come in
Right.
and show something like that, I mean, in my mind, I love it and I see the possibilities in it. But ultimately, these coaches have to know their kids. They have to know
Mm-hmm.
themselves what they can truly get behind and believe in, or else
No doubt.
I think players see through oh, this is just something new that this guy told him to do, but he doesn't really believe in that. So like you got to know
No doubt.
yourself and then choose what works best for your program.
And that's what we would do with this building a system when we come in. We would talk about, okay, what do you believe in when you guard a ball screen? What does your personnel allow you to do? See, that's the next point I was going to get to with, what we want to bring in. Like we want our fives to be able to hedge a ball screen. We want our fives to be able to run the floor. We want our fives to be able to protect the rim. So we want longer athletic guys. We don't want big plotters down there, because that just doesn't fit our system. We want to be relentless defensively. We want to get out and pressure the ball. So we want somebody back there that can protect the rim. We want somebody that can run out and hedge a ball screen. And so everybody's program is different. Someone might not have somebody that can do that. So here's what we can suggest that you do on ball screens, or here's what works best for us. Do we want to, do you want to ice swing ball screens? Do you want to jam high ball screens? Do you drop coverage? I hate drop coverage, but sometimes that's really all that you can do.
Tell me why you hate it.
Because I think guards, especially on our level and above, or if you have a really good player on the high school level, they'll just attack that big and do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And if your big is dropping, it's usually because he's not a great athlete, so it's hard for him to recover. So if he steps up to stop the ball, and the guy rolls like he's supposed to, they're just going to drop it off. And if you drop coverage and have a guy that can shoot it, then you're done. That dude's going to pop and he's going to make shots.
Yeah.
So it just and maybe I don't teach it very well.
Well, Coach, I'll tell you, the reason I ask is it's funny. Full transparency. We ran more man-to-man this year than ever before, or the last 3 years combined, like this season. And it just worked well with our guys. They seem to really like it. And I've been more of a pressure 3-2 zone guy. I know, like, when you say that out loud, I'm a zone guy, like people almost start to like roll their eyes and sigh. Like, you can still play hard out of a zone, but we went more man.
Sometimes harder.
Yeah, but it fit our guys. This fit our guys better, which there's a whole other conversation in that. Right. But we did go to down, and we had, I think, guys mobile enough to hedge. But maybe it's level 2, because you're right on the money. A guard that can come downhill and make the life hard of that big, that's different. Or also too, if offensively, if their spacing actually allows for that. I think a lot of times I see guards come off of ball screens and space being taken away by other players to where it's really easy for that guy to stay in front. But what I love the most, I think what I saw this year is, if I look at a shot chart, I want to see from us paint and outside the threes and almost completely empty space in the wings, of the key. And so, like, I think it promotes them taking dribble pull-ups a little bit more, which at the end of the day, for me, and this is where I think the level of play is different,
no doubt,
matters. That's a win. But like for you, if they're going to make you pay, then you better change your mind.
Yeah. And, I think we like to pressure and fight over the screen, and that's what we teach. And then when you start dropping, and then you try to go under it, or you continue to go over it, and that guy can get downhill and attack your big, that's where we're just not very good.
But also too, like, level of play. I think you make it work. You make it work best. Like, if we play a guard where I feel like, man, that shot from him in that spot can hurt us, then you got to adjust, or you run into the danger of systems is plug away, and don't adjust and get in trouble.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it's a problem. If you have a good guard that can make decisions, it's a problem on every level. You just watched Gonzaga dissect Kansas with the middle ball screen. It's crazy. And, you're like, man, that's Bill Self. Gonzaga scored Gonzaga scored on that middle ball screen 5 straight times. Like, it's not just me trying to figure out how to guard it.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. To your point, like, you mentioned his name. And I love the part, like, this part of our talks is the different directions it can go. What were your thoughts on the quote now that has really been floating around. Like, I'm a big Bill Self fan, and I think a lot of coaches would say they are. But for him to say in that press conference, or I've been kind of over this season or thinking about next season, a month ago, is it okay? Maybe an honest feeling that typically you don't hear people say too often.
Right.
Right. It was kind of you hear it, and my immediate reaction was, ooh, like, don't say that. Like, how do you,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure. And he probably thinks the same thing now. But we all do that.
Yeah.
We all do it. We lost a kid to academics at Christmas this year, and he started for us. He'll graduate, actually. Just had a bad semester, and he'll graduate this and come back next year and play for us. And he was a starter, so that's good too. We have a kid that started for us for 2 years, and he's a fifth-year kid. He'll actually be a sixth-year kid for us with COVID and a redshirt year. And we lose our best player, but we're bringing another starter back. So that's going to help us a ton. But when he went down, we lost. He was 10-0 with us, and then we lost the last game that he played with us, a close one that we probably should have won on the road. But he was not good, and the rest of the team was feeling it too. It was hard to deal with because we all knew it was his last game. And then we lose the next game, which is our first game without him. And we had won 10 or 11 in a row. I think 11 in a row. And he'd sat out of games for an injury, so he had won 10. He was 10-0 in our lineup. And and this is where we had such good character and such good kids. Like when he went down, we didn't know what to expect the rest of the year. We just lost a starter. We're not very deep to begin with. We had another kid that was out because of he did an ACL, and we just didn't know what to expect. And in that time, you're trying to figure out how we're going to win the next game, but you're also thinking about, okay, well, our aspirations of winning a championship might be over. So, what do we got to get for next year? What do we got to do to get?
Yeah.
And then my kids picked me up in that regard because we figured out how to win the next one, and then we won the next one, and then we might have had a setback here, and then we win the next one and win the next one, and all of a sudden we're playing at Southeast Oklahoma, who we're tied with for first place, and played our tail off, and we were up 7 with 3 minutes to go and lose. So now we walk into the locker room and say, all right, fellas, well, we've got 7 games left. If you want to win a championship, we got to win them all. And you're like, one at a time. But here's the challenge. And a lot of times when you do that with a team, it doesn't work. It doesn't happen. You're almost scared to tell them that. But this team was mature enough. But I think at some point in the season, it happened again later in the season. With about 3 weeks left, 6 games to play. Our other starter, who ended up being the conference tournament MVP, he gets kneed in the back of the head. He catches a ball in transition at the rim, and he shot fakes, and dude jumps over him and knees him in the back of the head. And when he got hit in the back of the neck, he passed out, and then he hit his head on the floor. He had to be carried off the floor. And he was another starter. Like, oh, gracious, we're going to lose another starter for the rest of the year. He's going to be out for 4 weeks with a concussion. Yeah. Well, he ended up coming back and playing in the game. Our trainer was like, he has no symptoms. I can't find any symptoms. Yeah, so he ended up playing in the game, and we figured out a way to win. And then the next day, he didn't pass one of the tests, and he had a concussion. He had to sit out for a week. But we had kids step up. We went on the road for 2 games, and we had a freshman come in and score 19. In a game on the road, and then another kid came on and made some big shots in a game at home the next game, and we had figured out a way to win. But during that time frame, when Cash went down during the game, I'm in the middle of the game, and the kid's limp on the floor, and I'm thinking, well, he's going to be out for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
The game, we're trying to win, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, what about next year?
You know what?
Maybe we can win a championship next year.
Yeah, and I've really been this whole time, as soon as I brought up Bill Self and asked that, debating in my head, like, is this even, like, do I want to even put that out? Like when this does end up coming out, and I've been going back and forth, but I do think like
Right.
one, I'm in no way shaming Bill Self, and I think
No
because
doubt.
I think, but it is an interesting thing to talk about or think about. It's I think he had an honest moment of
Right.
what we all think from time to time. You do this long enough, like I have these teams behind me, right? Like
Right.
the years where we won more games, we typically had fewer injuries.
Yeah.
Like when you have that bug happen and it's real, that it takes a little bit of the magic out of what your team could do. Maybe it takes the potential that they could. It brings it back. It brings it down. And we've all
No
had that
doubt.
feeling of maybe this just isn't the team because of these things that have happened. And I feel like he had that feeling, and he voiced it. And because now
Yeah.
because he's on such a bigger stage than any of us, like it gets put all over the place. But you know what? Like there's nothing wrong with you and I having those human moments and feeling that. But then to your point, it's all about how we frame things with our teams, and it goes
Hmm.
back to our standards and pillars. Because when your best players, like at the beginning of the season, oh man, this is good, Coach. Shawnee Harley, I did an episode with her, and she is. I mean, you'd probably call her a character coach, but she has the thing, winning matters, and she was an
Yeah.
Olympic coach in Canada for a long time. But she said at the beginning of a season, you need to have a talk with your players and list the culture breakers, the things that could happen
I like
that
that.
are negative. Because coach, all we do is we talk about the good stuff. Here are all the
No
ways
doubt.
that our culture is going to be great and we're going to be a happy family. Well, you and I know that that doesn't happen most of the time. In
Mm-mm.
fact, things are going to break culture, and one of the things that can get us down, our team, ourselves, players, is when injuries happen. It's not the
Right.
player's fault. They're not trying to miss on purpose, but man, we all feel it. So guys, let's talk
Hmm.
about ahead of time. What are we going to do when that injury happens? How are we going to handle it? Are we going to mail it in? Are we going to let fear and doubt creep over us, or we going to rely on our character and hold each other accountable, be relentless to get better every single day, and allow that
Yeah.
to help us to deserve success? Like coach, I think that's like, and you know what, i I feel like Coach Self did that
Hmm.
throughout his talks and everything. We're just sitting on this side of it, hearing that little soundbite, and like an
Yeah.
idiot, I'm bringing it up. What did you think of Coach Self when he said that? Like,
Well,
but
I
it's
heard
good for
that
us to talk
yesterday.
about. Yeah,
Yeah, I heard Jay Billis talk about that yesterday, and I'm probably not the biggest Jay Billis fan, but he said we as media we play that snippet.
yeah,
We don't.
yeah.
We don't. The media doesn't play the question. They don't. They don't. Jay Billis said that the question was almost like, "What about next year?" And Bill Self kind of answered the question, but that came out, and everybody just took that snippet.
There it is.
So, but there's a couple things with you saying all that. That is one reason why this is one of the most special teams I've ever coached, because we had a kid that was coming off an ACL injury that was a starter a year ago, that he was part of our plans, and he does not end up playing. So there was the first,
Hmm.
he played in 5 games all year and wasn't right, so he shut it down. That was the first one we took. Then we lost a starter to injury. Then we lose Cash to a concussion right in the midst of a championship run, and other guys stepped up. And then our best player, the conference player of the year, lands on his wrist in the last game of the season and is not even close to being 100%. Or he's just out there basically, offensively. And this team just kept winning and kept finding ways, and then wins a conference championship, wins 2 conference championships with all of that happening. And that will be why I will always be able to say that this was one of the most special teams I've ever coached. I had a team in 2009, 2010 that won 30 games here at Tech, and we were number one in the country for 8 weeks. But none of that happened. None of that happened. We won 25 games in a row, and that was a different form of handling adversity and success and all of that stuff. And but none of those injuries happened. I think we might have had a guy miss. He turned his ankle and missed one game, and then at the end of the season, we had our point guard turn his ankle and still played, though, still went into the conference tournament and helped us win the tournament. But we never dealt with losing a guy for the year or losing our best player at this time of the year. So, that was pretty amazing. What this team did this year to win 25 games and win 2 conference titles. But one of the things that we've been talking about is you just talked about fear and doubt. And I think, especially building programs now, this is the 6th time I've had to build a program that's down into a winner. And we've been successful every time we've done it. We've figured out how to get it to the right place at every level, JUCO, Division II, and the D1 assistant jobs that I've had have all been, I came in with the new coach. So we had to, except for Fort Wayne, but we were still building that. He was in his 2nd year. So every one of them had been, a rebuild that I had. So that's kind of become my niche, rebuilding programs. And I think one of the hardest things now, and you can blame it on so many different factors, social media, the convenience of life now with texting and cell phones and all that. You can blame it on video games. You can blame it on a lot. I could go down we could have a whole podcast about all that. But one of the hardest things to do when you're trying to build a losing program to a winning program is that fear and that doubt. How do you eliminate it? Because one thing that I've learned over the last 2 rebuilds at Northeastern State and then now back at Arkansas Tech is, for some reason, kids nowadays, when it starts going the wrong way, they just expect the worst to happen. That fear and that doubt creeps in, and the wheels fall off. And that to me, when you're building, I've had, some of my staff comes to me sometimes and says, man, if we ever take over another program, we just need to clean house completely. Just everybody that was in the program needs to be gone, because it's so hard to turn that mentality of we lost last season, now we're going to be a winner. I think
to gain that trust. Yeah.
No, it's harder than ever to flip that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest and hardest things to do, is eliminating that fear and doubt when they're hit with adversity. It's harder than ever to change that, to keep the wheels from falling off when something goes bad. And that belief that, and again, this year, that is why I will always say that this is one of the most fun years I've ever had. That this is a team that I will, always admire and always revere because of how they handled all that adversity. And, the good thing about it is they're pretty much all back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we can add the right guys, next year should be special. And that'll bring a whole other host of,
on the flip side to that adversity you talked about, like if you can make it through, and it sounds like, keeping the right approach to it, like you have, when you do make it through and you're looking back, and now that you have this group, that I would imagine, like, the hunger level, the amount of, they're not entitled to anything, like, that's got to be high. And I would imagine the training, the practice, the preparation leading into it, like, take what your last season, what happened during that time, take it, and then how can you use it, for your next year, for next year?
Yeah, that's all we've talked about. I mean, on the bus coming back from Minnesota, I sent my guys a bunch of messages to the group message, and all of it was, what can we do from right now, every day, to get back to what we just did, and now take it the next step? How do we figure out how to win the game in the NCAA tournament? How do we figure out how to win 2 or 3 and possibly get to an Elite Eight? How do we figure out how to put ourselves in a position to maybe play for a national championship? Those are, and it's got to be an everyday thing. What are you going to do today to help us get better and go further than we did this year? And the way that we handled everything this year, I believe that this group has it in them. I believe that this group has what it takes to build on that and move forward and handle those new challenges of now having a bigger target on our
The
back.
culture breakers when they do happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt. How are we going to handle it?
One more question for you before the speed round. And this is, I wrote this down. I wanted to make sure I got to it. I feel like I don't get to talk to a lot of coaches that are on their second go around at a place.
Mm-hmm.
You were at Tech for a while, from 07 to 2010 ish, and then left, and then you come back. What has it been like returning to a program that you were once at?
Well, challenging. One thing I played at Charleston and went back to Charleston when I left Tech the first time. And so I've almost done it twice.
Okay. Yeah.
I went to school there and played for the guy that just retired and then came back and replaced him. One, it's never the same. You have all these fond memories and all these things that you thought that you walk back into. It's never the same. It wasn't the same at Charleston. Even though we were successful at Charleston, it wasn't the same. It was different being a student there and being a coach there. And I had a great, it was great there. My son was born in Charleston and I'm from West Virginia. So it was great being home, but it was different. When I came back to Arkansas Tech, it was different. One, we walked right into COVID.
Yeah.
So
little asterisk right by that, no matter what.
No doubt. I know everyone was affected by COVID, but we were really affected by COVID our first 2 years. As a matter of fact, we had a point guard that was probably going to make a run at Player of the Year in the league our second year of COVID, and a D1 transfer that was just a special talent, and he got COVID 10 games in, and had to go through all the heart stuff, and the doctors wouldn't let him come back to play. So we lost him for the year. He was a 17 points and 7 assist guy.
Yeah.
Really good player. It was our focal. He was our everything. So we struggled that second year because of COVID. So we didn't, COVID was tough and that it made everything difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But then personally, I met my ex-wife at Arkansas Tech the first time. We were married at Arkansas Tech. Before we left and went to Charleston and then did the world tour, the country tour. But I come back to Arkansas. We buy supposedly what is our dream home, and this is where our kids are going to graduate from. And she's gone a few months later. So personally, that was extremely hard. And at first, I just had people kept telling me, like, you're going through this personal attack, you're going through these rough waters, but don't let coming back to Arkansas, don't let that define you and your journey back to Arkansas. And that's another reason why this team will always be very important to me and special to me, because this was the team that got us over the hump coming back to Arkansas, not only rebuilding the program, but in my personal life proving that I can still do this. I can still do this without my
a lot of personal satisfaction from what you've been through. Yeah,
no doubt. So it's been really different. But all the things that I knew were here, all the things that we built the first time, all the support in this community, all the good people in this community, my church family, and that was difficult too, because when I was here the first time, and again, I've always been a believer, but I was born again, in 21, early 21. But my church family, the first time, involved my wife, my ex-wife. When I tried to go back to that church, I couldn't do it. So I found a new church family here, and that's been amazing. That's my church family here is maybe the closest church family I've ever been a part of. So, that it's just different things. But I always knew that support. I always knew that the caliber of where this program could get to. I always knew that was there, and I just had to battle through and figure out the personal side of it. Again, that's maybe why this team was pretty special to me, because they went through some of those personal problems with me, a few of them. There was no doubt, even though I tried to not make it an issue, there was no doubt it was an issue. I mean, you're going through a life-changing event like that. Your players see that and go through that with you. So that's another reason why this satisfaction of winning this year and being successful. Some of those guys went through that life challenge with me, and I'm grateful for them sticking it out and believing in me. But Tech is a special place. The people here are unbelievable. The support that we had 300 people at a send off to go to the NCAA tournament. There were 2 watch parties at Bar and Grills here in town for our NCAA tournament game where there were over 100 people at both of those watch parties. So the support here is just amazing. It's a great job. We have good facilities, and it's a good place to go to school. So I knew that was here, and I knew we could get it back there. It just took getting through COVID and getting through a personal challenge to get there.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. I wrote down because you had said it's never what you think it's going to be. And I think that's a good reminder. PGC talks about drop your comparisons and drop your expectations before.
No,
so like if an athlete has been to a PGC camp with another director, but you come to mine, drop your comparisons. I'm not those guys. Drop your expectations of what you feel like it's going to be like. Go into every situation new and eyes open. And I think that's important, whether you're taking over a new program or even just returning for, in my case, next year will be the 12th year here at Faith. Man, drop my comparisons to what years have been like before. Drop my expectations of what I feel like with what we have coming and coming back and what that, because not that COVID will happen again, but crazy things happen. And so don't, and like Shawnee says, get those culture breakers ready for what if those things happen. And but I appreciate you sharing that.
I love the culture breaker things. I wrote that down. That's something that we'll probably explore.
Her episode, man, it was weird. I felt like with you, it's just 2 coaches talking, which is great. With her, I felt like, do I need to pay her for this therapy session that I've just gotten?
But that's great.
The speed round. Before I let you go, this is how I get to know you just a little bit better. You ready?
Let's do it.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Oh, it's crazy. I'm a vanilla Chick-fil-A ice cream cone guy.
Okay.
I love it.
All right.
And if I steer away from that, it's chocolate peanut butter.
Good one. All right, that's good.
Yeah.
Greatest shooter of all time?
Oh, man. I mean, Steph Curry. But if I say anything different, I'm going to be lying to my players. So Mark Downey.
But it's between those 2.
I tell those guys all the time, it doesn't matter who walks in the gym. I believe I can outshoot them. So,
man, there's something there, though. That's another podcast right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Best basketball movie of all time?
I played in the movie Glory Road. I don't think it's the best basketball movie all time, but I was in it. So,
what part were you in it? What was your part?
I was Tommy Cron, number 30 for Kentucky Wildcats.
No way.
That's another podcast. Yeah, that was a neat thing. I think the best basketball movie of all time, though, is Hoosiers. But Glory Road.
It's awesome. Incredible. I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna find you. That's big time. Okay. Texting or talking?
Talking. All the talking, no doubt. I know we're lazy and we text a lot, but talking, no doubt.
Now I'm in Texas where we have no shot clock. So for high school, shot clock or no shot clock?
Shot clock.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate
shot
that.
Clock. No doubt about it. They just implemented in Arkansas last year. And
how'd it go?
Game changer. Yeah, completely different. And
how much time?
35.
Gotta get that lower.
I'd like it to be 32.
Yeah, let's get college to 24.
30 as well.
Let's get college to 24. Yeah. Let's get no, it's good. Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, just Christmas. Just the reason why more than anything. But I just think everybody's happy at Christmas.
You're up 3. You're up 3 on defense with 7 seconds left. Do you foul or no foul?
Man, I've been hurt so many times by not fouling, so I foul. Yeah,
and 7 seconds might be a little high. I've had some guys like if it was 5 or less, so I got to figure out the right time to ask on that question. But
depends on where the ball's at too. If it's 7 in the backcourt, then let them take a dribble or 2 and foul them. Yeah,
I like that. What book besides the Bible would you give to someone?
Extreme Ownership.
Jocko.
Jocko and Leif Babin. Yeah, it's
That's good.
my favorite book of all time. You want to talk about leadership? Go listen to Extreme Ownership. I talk about that all the time. It's helped me the last 2 years coaching my team.
Talk about clarity. At the end of the day, whatever happens here, it's my fault. And when you approach it like that, excuses go out the window.
Yeah, I do that all the time now. Again, the guy that handed me that book was Bruce Mann, my men's group leader, is former military, former football coach. And just listening to that, no matter what, look in the mirror and say it's my fault. And we try to get our players to do that. We take a military approach with our players. One of the other things besides saying character wins in the huddle, especially late in the year, we're saying 3-foot world, and that comes from the show SEAL Team. One of my favorite shows is SEAL Team. Just because I love the military side of things. I love watching cop shows. I love watching military movies and shows, and I bring so much of that to our program. Our other thing we'd always say is cover and move. Have your teammates 6. It's all military stuff.
Man, yeah. Coach, have you watched the show? My wife and I were kind of reality TV, Survivor, Big Brother. Like we're in like every week. Yeah. We're there. There's one with Extreme Forces, I think it is, or Special Forces. But they take celebrities and they put them through this boot camp. But it's like serious stuff. Like and some of these are former athletes that they just can't do it. But then the people that do make it through sometimes surprise you. Like at the beginning, you wouldn't think that. You think the NFL guy makes it through, or the basketball guy, and they flame out like halfway. But you'd like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check it out.
All right, 2 more. Favorite place to travel?
I'm a beach guy. I'm just, you can put me on any beach. I have no more fun than being in, Destin, Florida, seaside with my 2 boys.
Nice.
There's no more fun than that for me.
All right, last one, Coach. Probably most important. How do you drink your coffee?
Iced. I've never been a black coffee drinker. I had one today. It was iced. They put some whip on top of it.
Coach, own it, man. Like,
people make fun of me all the time. I'm a fluff coffee drinker, man. I drink iced caramel macchiato with some whip on. Now I drink it sugar free, and I don't get all the sugar in it, but the whip the whip can't be sugar free. It's got to be real.
That's right.
But Coach, there's not that many calories in whipped cream.
You're right. No, and that's actually a great thing to put on a lot of stuff that give it a little flavor, but not. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Coach. Over an hour and a half of your time. I'm blown away, honored to have this time with you, and really enjoyed getting to learn more about you and your program. This was awesome, man.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for letting us, like I said, want to use that platform and promote us and promote my Savior. And, it's just always great to talk hoops. So I'm grateful to you as well.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.